I have thought of you recently here because I really don't know. And you could check out the Domonique Foxworth show where he will make the second apron entertaining, and he will also break down union issues in a way that has more expertise than the average person. But I don't know how you have felt about recent developments where your friend Pablo Torre is reporting things that embarrass your friends and colleagues in a union that you have some great pride in, I would imagine, because you are a very strong member of that union. Just the things that have happened over the last, I'm going to say, 21 days with his reporting, have they been personally hurtful to you?
Yeah. I mean, I did a couple segments that were not fun or all that insightful about what was going on there, and I think that it's not incredibly embarrassing to any friends or colleagues because the people who are being accused of things aren't friends or colleagues. I've always, since I left office as president, I've been reluctant to speak out on any issues because, of course, there are going to be things that happen that I agree with or disagree with, but I always try to remember that I was a leader in the union, and it was really frustrating for people who had limited information to speak out and be critical. So I haven't really done that. I pointed out that the conflicts of interest that Lloyd Howell is accused of are inexcusable and reprehensible. The one thing I did agree with and want to defend is that the players said that they are following the process, and that's like core. That is encouraging because that's core to what a union is. And oftentimes when I was at the union, people would get upset and wonder why we would defend a player who was accused of some crime, and it seemed clear that he had committed the crime. And the point was, you have to protect those processes because if you, for one special case, decide to circumvent those processes, then there comes an opportunity where the case is no longer special and the process can be circumvented. So I say that to say that I respect the player leaders who are taking their time and waiting for the investigation and doing the things right. And even if I didn't, I would never criticize the player leaders of the union. That's just not.
But you're not. You're
thing to do.
But you're also not comfortable. I don't want to put you in a bad spot here, but just talking to me about sort of the emotion of reading that your union is compromised, right, or at least appears compromised by something that would and should make Justin Herbert mad as a member of that union. And if I were Justin Herbert, I would be looking for legal action to get me some of my money back because my union didn't help me there the way that it's supposed to, based on the information that's been reported so far.
Based on the information that's reported, it's infuriating, honestly. It's because if you go back through the history of the union, there have been multiple tens and hundreds of players who have sacrificed in order to put the current players today in a position to have some of the success that they've had and reap some of the rewards that they are able to reap. And it's infuriating for someone who clearly doesn't seem to understand that or appreciate that to use this position as a position to better their own standing and make deals and compromises that undercut the players. I think the conflict of interest with Carlisle is particularly disappointing. Carlisle Group is trying to become an investor in an NFL team, and Lloyd Howell is an advisor to Carlisle. Like, there's certain things that you just aren't allowed to do in certain roles, and I think that that's one that's pretty obvious. And the power and strength of the union is not something, to me at least, that should be held by one person at the top, and certainly not used by that person to better themselves. Like, the power and the strength of the union should come from the players. And I hate always not always, but often when I hear players talk about the union, they say the union, and they say they never really say we. And that's not the players' fault. I think it's a function of the union gradually separating the power from the players. And that's disappointing and infuriating, honestly.
Do I have it wrong when I dismiss the NFL Players Union with some form of it's only so strong because those guys aren't actually united in being willing to miss the next paycheck?
I'm not sure I completely understood. Like, I think that's not the NFL Players Association alone. Like, that's every union. That is what union strength is. And I think the executive director of the union is important, but it doesn't matter. You could negotiate the best CBA in history. A child could negotiate the best CBA in history if the players are tight and strong and willing to sacrifice. Like, that's what it comes down to. That's why it's so upsetting when a guy who doesn't seem to understand that is not doing the things that I think need to be done. And it's just sad, man. It's just sad.
But Domonique, you say that's every union. It's not every union. Not every union is filled with millionaires. It's not every union. Like this.
I know. I don't think the makeup of the union matters. Union power comes from solidarity and unity, frankly, from the name and willingness to sacrifice. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter where you're from, where you live, what country you're in, or any of that stuff, what job you do. None of that matters. I think that they're oftentimes it's easy when you are trying to sell yourself to talk about how, as a leader, how you can do this and do that, and you have these ideas and strategies, and you can make everything better because you have certain experiences and you've gone to fancy schools and you've been to other places. That shit don't matter. None of it matters. Like, what matters underneath it all is that the players take ownership of the union, and the players believe in the union, and the players control the union, and the players are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And they understand the history of the union. They understand that other people sacrificed in order to get them here, and that it is their responsibility to sacrifice to continue to protect the gains that were made for them. And I think the NFLPA is often pointed to, but this is true of all the pro sports unions. And you could make the argument that it's true of all American unions, that they are in retreat. And the most recent CBAs in all of the leagues have taken a step back for a lot of the players. And in part, you could argue it's because of the money in the game. But I think understanding your core beliefs and what matters to you is what it comes down to. And those things can be changed. Like, that dynamic can be shifted. But it starts with the culture of the union and the culture of any organization, and having this apparent separation of culture. It's not new. Like, I can't blame Lloyd Howe for that. That's something that's probably been going on in the union for a long time, gradually feeling less like it was the players' union and more like the people in the office a couple of streets from where I am right now are making the decisions for the players.